the bus stopped, I recalled her unexpected question about my plans going forward after the war. I'd been dumbstruck, then said there was no change. She'd been surprised at my response, saying she'd thought the war had altered everyone. Not me, I'd said. I opened my book again. The traffic ahead was slow despite the early hour. A few pages lost in the world of whimsy would pass the time. "Aren't you meant to be getting off here?" the conductor asked. I looked up, unaware of where I was. "Yes, thank you. Head always in a book," he laughed, and I leapt off straight into a naval lieutenant who was walking along the pavement. He was tall. I wasn't short at 5'11", but he towered over me as his hand steadied me. "Sorry," I said, stepping back. He tilted his head and studied me. His eyes were the blue of a shallow sea on a sunny day. Something inside me woke up. "No need to apologize," he said in an American accent as he bent to pick up my book, which had fallen in the collision. He turned it over. "Interesting choice." He handed it to me. I almost inquired why, but stopped. Instead, I asked, "Have you read it?" "I have, but I prefer murder must advertise." I blinked. "Were you in advertising?" He smiled and his eyes creased at the corners. "No." I was suddenly aware of the strong attraction I was feeling to a man who read Sayers. "Sorry for bumping into you," I said to cover my thoughts. "You can do it again any time." He grinned. "You never know. I might." I smiled and turned away as I flushed. Not sure why I'd said that. I didn't even care for Americans. They had taken too long to join the war. Still, he was attractive and definitely my type. At the archway to Horse Guards, I risked a glance over my shoulder, but the American was gone. I wasn't sure what I would have done if he'd still been there. Ask him for a drink? I smiled at the thought. Pushing that aside, I picked up my pace as I headed towards the Citadel, a bomb-proof subterranean fortress. The entrance, an ugly concrete carbuncle, was tacked onto the end of the Admiralty building. Constructed last year, the Citadel's entrance was disguised from above by a grass-covered roof. In aerial photographs, it appeared as nothing more than a lawn next to the Admiralty on Horse Guards, and not the beating heart of naval intelligence working around the clock. Appearances could be deceptive. I knew this well. As I approached the threshold, I prepared to head underground and lose all sense of day or night. I was lucky that I didn't work the rotating shifts that many did. I wasn't 9 to 5 either. It was now 6:45, and I wasn't sure when the day would be finished, but I hoped to be done in time to join my housemates at the cinema tonight. "Morning, miss," said the sailor who checked my pass at the entrance. "Morning," I replied, joining the flow of people descending. On the stairs, I met up with one of the typists coming down from the offices above. "All okay in the zoo?" I asked. Chapter 2. I couldn't afford to make a mistake. People would die if I did. The dense grove of trees was clear in the image, but the large dark shape near it was not. What concerned me was that the railway was less than half a mile from the smudge, and the strategically significant port at Calais a half-mile in the other direction. It could be the ideal location for a munitions factory. Or was it simply a consequence of the photographic development process? A shadow from a cloud, dust on the camera or the negative? For my whole life, maps had made everything possible. I knew this to my very core, aware that the war would be won or lost based on the quality of maps. I stared at the aerial photograph in my hands. Every missing bridge, new road, or altered building was important. The sound of the teleprinters in the next room interrupted my thoughts. I put the photo down on the battered wooden table in front of me and picked up the map I was trying to update. Aside from the well-recorded build-up around the port and a few artillery installations along the coast, there had been no changes observed for some time. But that didn't mean things weren't happening. It simply meant they hadn't been seen. In the files, I searched for an older photograph for comparison, but the last images of this area of Calais were over 6 months old. So this smudge could be something, or it could be nothing. I needed to decide. At least there appeared to be no new armaments, unlike the last photograph I'd looked at taken near Brest. I straightened and rolled my shoulders back. For 5 hours, I'd been studying the latest photos and comparing.